Okay, so Chapter 3, Amino Acids, Peptides, and Proteins. In this introductory section, we're going to talk about 4 principles that you need to be aware of when we are discussing the amino acids and peptides and building up to proteins over the next few chapters. First off, every living thing on this planet that we have found, we have identified, utilizes the same base set of 20 amino acids. Now, it doesn't mean there are only 20 amino acids out there. No. Some of these this common set will be, have things added, will be altered in some way that is specific to a species, that is specific to a genus. They may also have an amino acid that is just for them, but there's 20 that we know of for all living things. The proteins also, the amino acids are going to be joined together via peptide bonds. Okay. This peptide bond is one of the characteristic linkages amongst what we recognize as the biological macromolecules. This peptide bond is going to join together 2 amino acids. One amino acid is going to lose a hydroxyl off of its carboxyl. The other is going to lose a hydrogen off of its amino group. Now here's the thing, as we see here in Principle 3. All living cells are going to have hundreds, if not thousands, of different proteins. And of those different proteins, there's going to be anywhere from 1 to maybe 1 million copies of that one in every cell. So we have to have a way to separate them out, to isolate the protein so that we can study that protein individually, to characterize it, know its sequence, know how its folding pattern, know its 3-dimensional structure, and from there we can begin building on what is the actual role of that protein, enzyme, structural, what have you, in the cell, and who it interacts with. We have to keep in mind that evolution just states that what we have nowadays is not what has always been there. So if we apply that to what we see now with proteins and the genes in the chromosomes that act as the blueprint on how to make those proteins, we can start to draw lines between different organisms. We can start to see who is related to whom based on proteins. Who's got the same protein, who doesn't? Are the shapes of the proteins, the amino acid sequences, the same? Take that even further back and we can look at the DNA sequences. Is the DNA sequence the same between 2 organisms? If it's very divergent, but they have proteins that are quite similar, well, what does that mean in their evolutionarily relatedness? And that's what we now look at when we study, evolution and bioinformatics.